All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely always up for a good deep dive, especially with today's news cycle.
Well said. We've got a ton to unpack. From MarketWatch and CNBC to investing.com. Seems like everything's happening at once.
Yeah, feels like a roller coaster out there.
First things first, the stock market. What's going on? Some analysts are predicting a 10% correction.
Yeah, 10% is, well, that's a significant dip. Makes you wonder why everyone's so nervous.
Yeah, exactly. What are they seeing that we're not?
Well, one thing's for sure, it's a global thing, this bond sell-off that's got everyone spooked.
Bond sell-off. Could you unpack that a bit for our listeners?
Sure, it basically means investors are selling off their bonds, and that can cause a ripple effect, push interest rates higher.
Ooh, higher interest rates.
Yeah.
Not good for borrowers.
Not good at all. Think mortgages, loans, all that fun stuff gets more expensive.
Okay, so definitely something to watch out for. And speaking of things to watch, Eli Lilly's stock took a hit.
Ah, yeah, I saw that. Those missed sales expectations for their weight loss drugs, Mounjaro and Zepbound. Ouch.
Yeah, not a good look. What do you think this says about the pharmaceutical industry in general?
Well, it definitely highlights the risks, right? You're banking on these blockbuster drugs, and when they don't perform.
It all comes crashing down.
Right.
Diversification, right? That's what they always say.
Exactly. Spread those eggs across multiple baskets. Never put all your faith in one company, no matter how promising it seems.
Wise words. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom, right? Some companies are actually doing quite well.
True. It's interesting, isn't it? Last year's laggards are actually making a strong comeback.
The market works in mysterious ways. What's behind this shift?
Honestly, part of it's just sentiment. What was out of favor one year can suddenly become the hot new thing the next.
So basically, market trends can be unpredictable, even fickle.
Absolutely. And speaking of unpredictable, let's talk about politics. Trump's back in the White House, and his second term is already, well, let's just say it's off to an eventful start.
No kidding. His pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is facing some tough questions.
Yeah, that's a controversial pick for sure. And those Senate confirmation hearings, well, they're not holding back.
Definitely some fireworks there. What do you think this tells us about Trump's approach this time around?
It's hard to say for sure, but picking Hegseth, it definitely sends a message. Could be he's doubling down on some of his previous policies. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's not just cabinet picks stirring things up either.
Oh, right, Greenland, he's back on that again.
Seems like it. Yeah.
Seriously, what's the deal with that? You think he'll actually make a move?
Who knows with this guy? But hey, it makes for good headlines, right?
I guess so, but what about the real impact, on the markets, the economy, all that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Trump's policies, especially on tariffs, they could really shake things up.
Oh, yeah, especially for certain industries, like shipping, tech. Those guys must be on edge.
Absolutely. Any uncertainty like that makes investors nervous.
Speaking of tech, there's some news in the buy now, pay later world. Klarna is teaming up with Stripe.
Oh, yeah, big deal. Global payments. Plus, they're prepping for a U.S. IPO.
Wow, things are moving fast for them. But is this buy now, pay later thing really sustainable?
It's disrupting the whole financial landscape, that's for sure, and regulators are taking notice, too.
Oh, right, like that CFPB lawsuit against Capital One.
Exactly. They're accused of misleading customers about savings rates. Could have big implications for the whole industry.
Definitely a story to follow. Seems like everyone's trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
From everyday investors to these giant corporations.
So it's a wild west out there, but hey, that's the world we live in, right? Always changing.
True enough. But let's shift gears a bit. Some of the biggest news today isn't about stocks or politics. It's those wildfires in Los Angeles.
Oh, man. Those are devastating. So many people displaced. The damage is just unbelievable.
Heartbreaking. And it's not just the immediate impact either. Rents are going up for those who lost their homes.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect. Hits the economy, too. It's tragic all around.
But there are some glimmers of hope. We saw a story about an app developer using his tech to help people navigate the crisis.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Using your skills for good, especially in times like these.
Makes you believe in humanity a little bit, right? Even when things are tough.
Absolutely. It's inspiring to see people stepping up.
On a less inspiring note, Brown-Forman, the Jack Daniels folks, they're laying off people.
Yeah, over 600 employees. Tough times for them. Sales are down. Stocks at a 10-year low.
Ouch, that's rough. Any idea what they're planning to do to turn things around?
Some analysts say streamlining might be the key. Less is more.
Interesting. Maybe they can bounce back stronger.
Hopefully. Gotta adapt to survive, right?
That's the truth. All right, let's circle back to politics for a moment. Trump's inauguration. Any updates on that?
Yeah, seems like it'll be pretty low-key this time, even though his campaign raised a ton of money.
Really? That's a change from his last one, all that extravagance.
Yeah, it's got people talking, could mean a more subdued approach this term, or maybe it's just the economic climate.
Interesting. You think it's a deliberate strategy or just coincidence?
Could be either, right? We'll have to see how it plays out, how the media spins it.
Speaking of spins, Trump's Greenland obsession, is that still a thing?
Apparently so. Reports say he's still eyeing it up, all those resources.
Oh, yeah, those critical minerals. Big players like China are interested too.
Exactly. It's become this geopolitical hot potato, poor Denmark stuck in the middle.
They're probably wishing they could just sell it and be done with it.
Right. But seriously, it highlights those global power dynamics. Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
And speaking of global competition, what about those U.S.-China trade tensions still simmering?
Oh, yeah. That's not going away anytime soon. Big question is how Trump's second term will affect things.
Especially for industries like shipping, they're super vulnerable to those tariffs.
Absolutely. Any change in trade policy could have huge ripple effects.
Yeah, uncertainty is the enemy. Businesses need stability to thrive.
No doubt about it. Got to have some predictability to make plans, investments, all that.
Makes sense. And speaking of uncertainty, those analysts predicting a 10% market correction, that's still looming.
Yep, can't forget about that. Volatility is part of the game. Got to be prepared for anything.
Before we jump into company news, one last thing. JP Morgan Chase, their COO stepping down.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Pinto, big news. Been there forever. Everyone's wondering who'll replace Jamie Dimon as CEO.
It's like a corporate soap opera, all these power moves and successions.
Jennifer Peepsack's promotion to COO is interesting, even though she says she doesn't want the top job.
Oh, so she's the front runner now. This is getting juicy.
It's definitely one to watch. Lots of speculation swirling around.
All right, let's dive into some company-specific news before we wrap things up. Valentine's Day coming up. Maybe not the best time for Signet, key jewelers and Zales.
Yeah, their stock took a hit, lowered their sales forecast. Seems people are going for cheaper options this year.
So much for diamonds being a girl's best friend, huh? Maybe it's those economic worries we talked about.
Could be when people are feeling uncertain, they cut back on the fancy stuff first.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, moving on to Boeing. They released their delivery numbers. Not great news.
Not great, no. 30 planes in December, but Airbus is pulling ahead. The gap's widening.
What's going on with Boeing? Can they even catch up at this point?
They've had a rough few years. The 737 MAX issues, production delays, all that. Airbus is capitalizing on it.
So it's advantage Airbus for now.
Seems that way, but Boeing's investing in new tech, trying to turn things around. We'll see what happens.
Speaking of turning things around, Loop Capital saying AMD's a buy could rally almost 50%.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. AMD's been through a lot too, but they're a major player in the chip market.
So is this a good time to buy, or is it too risky?
Well, Loop Capital cites low investor sentiment and valuation as reasons to be optimistic, but, as always, do your own research.
Good point. We're just having a conversation here, not giving financial advice. Always got to do your due diligence.
Exactly. Inform yourself. Make your own decisions.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive. We covered a lot today.
We did. Markets, politics, natural disasters, even a bit of Valentine's Day doom and gloom.
Hopefully everyone listening feels a little more informed, maybe even inspired.
It's all about connecting the dots, understanding how these events shape our world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, we'll be back soon with another deep dive. So until then, stay curious out there.
Stay curious and stay informed.